Good morning, Leading by Example family.
Morning.
My name is Subramaniam Palatil. I am the Clinical Director and Co-Founder of Leading by Example, and I will be your host for this fourth installment of our Family Strengthening Clinical Skills Training Model series. I had so much fun last time. I really enjoyed our time together. In the last installment, we had the opportunity to get an introduction to the awareness wheel. We talked about the significance of the awareness wheel as a tool to assist us with helping our clients and helping families to observe and manage their own process. But probably more important than that, we identified it as a tool that could help us monitor and manage our own process. And we highlighted some examples and some hypothetical situations to give us an opportunity to step through life experiences and by using the awareness wheel to help us be more clear and aware about what exactly is happening to us in the moment, in the here and now. And I just wanted to get some feedback from you as relates to your experience with the awareness wheel last time we were together. What do you remember? What stood out for you? If you have had an opportunity to utilize it since the last time we talked, share with me an experience that you've had with it. So I'm going to open it up to the group. What happened with you since the last time we were together? Yes, sir.
I purposefully have been making a intensive attempt to be more conscious and aware of internally what's happening with me inside. I've really been paying a lot of attention to the sensory piece and jumping from sensory to action. And just really being purposeful in trying to matriculate around the entire wheel before I actually get to the action portion. So I've been really aware
Good.
of that.
Very good. Anybody else?
I have to agree with Johnny on that. And I noticed that I spend an awful lot of time in the thoughts section, and the feelings as well, but I think I almost feel like I spend too much time thinking about things, and that maybe I need to move a little more quickly to, the intentions part and the actions part,
Okay.
as opposed to just hanging out in the thoughts too long.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. Anybody else? Yes, Ashley Fadiora.
I just know that there was an experience yesterday that you guys made me become more aware that how I skipped parts of the wheel. And then I went from senses to thoughts to behavior. So I immediately reacted. So
Okay.
that kind of just brought it back home that I skipped some parts, and that like what my feelings, what feelings led me to behave that way or to respond that way, I'll say. And just to become more aware and stepping through the process.
Nice. Nice. Very good. Yes, Shanoma.
I'm focused a little more on the intentions part.
Okay.
I'm working with my clients and trying to understand that regardless of everything that they're doing, their whole intent is to be okay. Because noticing that, right, that's not their actions always. It seems like their intentions is not to be okay. So pretty much that's it.
All right. Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Yes. 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 We have been working. We have been working, and we have been continuing to explore our options with this tool. One thing I want to emphasize in this session that I did not mention the last time we were together is the power of transaction in relationship and the ability of this tool to help us manage that. So when we were using the wheel the last time, we were using it to observe our responses to stimulus in the environment, which consisted of things that we hear, things that we see, things that we smell. We used the example of a significant other at a coffee shop with a strange person that we did not know, and we stepped around that wheel to observe ourselves and how we would potentially respond to that situation. That was a very valuable exercise, but the part that I did not emphasize that I want to emphasize here is while we are moving around this wheel and we are thinking about things and we are having feelings and we are desiring to be okay and then we are behaving, what we have to be hyper aware of is whatever we choose to do will be an added stimulus in the environment that will launch others around this wheel. So, as you are going around this wheel and trying to make a determination about how you want to respond to a significant other, whatever you choose to do in response to that significant other, you have to know that as soon as you do that, that person will hear something you said, see something you did, and have a thought about it, hence launching them into this process. Now, what I found that is sometimes a catalyst for creating difficulty in relationships is two people who care about one another, who ultimately desire the best for one another, engage in conduct with one another that just, flicks the wrong switches. And sometimes we're not intending to do that. We don't mean to do that. But out of anger, out of frustration, out of anxiety, out of fear, and out of our attempt to navigate from that uncomfortable place to a place of okayness, we do things which essentially we want that other person to acknowledge what we need and to respond to that. But what we're doing makes them feel uncomfortable. Insults them, creates anxiety for them, creates fear for them, creates pain for them. And instead of trying to meet your need, this is what you can expect. This is what you can expect. At the point that you have experienced an injury, your natural self-preservation component that exists in you will immediately call your attention to your injury. It's difficult to try to serve, help, and give to someone else when you're cut and bleeding. You understand what I'm saying? So, in your attempt to get your need met, you may do something that's sharp and cutting to your spouse, to your child, to your brother, to your sister, and at the point that they've been cut, they can't attend to what you need because they're bleeding. So they will tend to their own wound. And their desire is to heal and be okay. So they may respond with a word, with a action that is about self-preservation that you experience as selfishness and you did not hear me and that's not what I said I needed from you, and then you do something. And this cycle is a perpetual, continuous, cyclical process that continues to move families, couples, children down a path of ultimate destruction if it's not interrupted. If it's not interrupted. So I wanted to highlight that because it's not enough for us to understand the awareness wheel in the individuality of our own need and our own process. We must understand the wheel as it connects to the power of the relationships that we are managing on an ongoing basis. What are you hearing me say? What are you hearing? I'm patient. Yes, sir.
It's interesting because if the awareness wheel isn't enough to be aware of, to manage, to be in a pursuit of mastery of, depending on how many people are a part of the interaction, and depending on how many people are in your presence, there are multiple wheels that are being birthed
Yes.
through, and it's happening at a very rapid pace.
Yes.
So I can imagine that being challenging to manage.
Yes. The thing that I found to be helpful, because what you're sharing is absolutely true. This is a very dynamic, complex, and sometimes even confusing process to manage. But the real mastery, which you mentioned, ultimately births out of our own mastery of self. See, it's very difficult to be masterful at helping someone do something that you've never done. And there are a lot of people who attempt to help people do things that they haven't done themselves. And that can be helpful. It can be helpful. But my own personal experience has taught me that true mastery results from becoming it, not doing it. Yeah. You wanna help people get better at being aware, you have to be aware. It's really that simple. It's tough to give what you don't have. So this information that I'm sharing with you is really about giving us something that we can use to practice with ourselves and in our own families. Now, because we're talking about this wheel that embodies just the very nature of who we are. And if you think about the components of this wheel, it really makes up the core of who we are. All of those components is a rough attempt to represent what's going on inside of us and how that process emerges as observable conduct and behavior. This is a very sensitive. While it is powerful and it can produce love or it can produce fear, it's very sensitive. It can be easily broken. It's fragile. It's fragile. So we have to approach this by understanding the fragility of these powerful elements. We have to be sensitive to the fragility of these powerful components. You know, if you've ever ordered something online, and when they ship it to you, depending on what it is, I ordered a watch that I loved, and when it finally got there, it was a big box, and inside of that was a box. Then inside of that was a box. Then it was bubble wrapped. And I got through the bubble wrap and it was a box. And then it just continued down to about 7 layers. It was about 7 layers. And it was the person who was sending it, acknowledging and understanding that once I send this item through the process of life, it will be thrown, potentially it will fall, it may be banged around, but the contents doesn't change. This is the symbolism that I want you to get. The value of what's inside does not change just because the box is scarred up. But if you're a good steward over things that are valuable, you will wrap them with the level of intent, concern, and care to protect them. What I'm saying is this awareness wheel contains the most fragile components of our human existence. So when you approach this wheel, you should approach it with care. You should approach it with care. I did all of that to set up the next set of skills that I want to present to you. And this set of skills is referred to as the 7 rules of thumb. And you will find that on a handout that's included in your packet. It's the center column, the 7 rules of thumb. You could reference those in your packet. The last time we were together and we unpacked the wheel, naturally, as we interacted, what we began to do was to naturally move toward trying to figure out what we do in response to the outcomes that the wheel produces. It's natural that we would go to that place because as practitioners, as helpers, as clinicians, ultimately we are responsible for doing something. And what I cautioned us with in the last session was to let's stay with the wheel. Let's not try to move to intervention quite yet, because I think we need to understand the substance of the content before we can get to a place where we can respond to the outcomes of what it's producing. So I really worked hard to keep us focused on the wheel. But this session, we're going to begin to look at the process of intervention. And remember, our interventions are always about us helping our clients observe and manage their own process. That's the ultimate goal. If we're successful with that, then we have worked ourselves out of a job. They will not need us anymore because they are aware of their needs, they're aware of the options that they have available, the resources, the tools, they're competent in utilizing them, and they can manage their lives independently. And at the point that we've achieved that, then those clients are discharged from our service and they can move on to live healthy and productive lives. The 7 rules of thumb, however, is the first phase of intervention. The 7 rules of thumb are the first phase of intervention. Now, what is important to note here is in the first phase of intervention, the person we're intervening with is ourselves. The purpose of the 7 rules of thumb is to make sure that we are clear of toxins and contaminants and impurities that may infect or affect what we're giving. It's the way that we sterilize our vessel to ensure that what's coming through us is clean. It's the same way that a surgeon will sterilize, or a surgical assistant will sterilize the tools of the surgeon before he operates. It's the same reason that the operating room is kept at a low temperature. I don't know exactly what the temperature is, but if you've ever been in an operating room, you'll notice immediately it's cold in there because it's more difficult